The roar of motorcycles shattered the dusk, their engines snarling like wolves circling prey. Eleanor Ellie Whitaker, 92 years old and unbowed, stood on her porch in Willow Creek, Montana, her hands trembling not from fear but from fury. She'd faced worse: war zones, loss, and a world that once told her love like hers was a sin. But this was her home, her sanctuary, and they wouldn't take it from her. For weeks, the local riders, a gang of leather-clad troublemakers calling themselves the Iron Vipers, had targeted her. They revved their bikes past her small, weathered house at all hours, spray-painted slurs on her mailbox, and left threatening notes tucked under her door. Old Dyke. One read, the words cutting deeper than Ellie cared to admit. She'd survived World War II as a nurse, patched up soldiers under gunfire, and built a life with her late partner, Margaret, in this quiet town. But now, at 92, she was alone, and the Vipers smelled weakness. Ellie's eyes, still sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, scanned the street. The leader, a wiry man named Jace with a shaved head and a cruel smirk, idled his bike at the corner, staring her down. She clutched the phone in her pocket, her thumb brushing the worn buttons. One call could change everything, but it meant dragging someone else into her fight, someone she hadn't seen in years. That someone was Lena Carter, 38, a mechanic with a past as tangled as the engines she fixed. Lena had grown up in Willow Creek, a tomboy who'd once idolized Ellie and Margaret, the town's quiet rebels. They'd been her heroes, proof that love could survive in a world that didn't always understand it. But Lena had left town at 18, chasing freedom and fleeing heartbreak, and hadn't looked back until now. Ellie's call, a shaky voicemail left at 2 a.m., had pulled her back like a tether. Lena, it's me. I need you. They're trying to break me. Lena's truck rolled into Willow Creek at dawn, the familiar sight of the town's single stoplight stirring memories she'd buried. She wasn't sure what she'd find. Ellie had been old when Lena was a kid, and 20 years had passed since they'd last spoken. But the urgency in Ellie's voice, the crack of vulnerability, had been enough to make Lena drop everything. She pulled up to Ellie's house, her boots crunching on the gravel drive, and saw the woman who'd once taught her how to change a tire and stand up to bullies. Ellie was Freylia now, her shoulders stooped, but her gaze burned with the same fire Lena remembered. Lena, Ellie said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. You came. Couldn't leave you to fight alone, Lena replied, her throat tight. She noticed the graffiti on the mailbox, the word freak scrawled in red. Her fists clenched. Who's doing this? Ellie sighed, gesturing to the street where the Vipers had ridden by hours earlier. Kids with too much anger and not enough sense. They think I'm an easy target. Lena's jaw tightened. She'd spent her life running from fights, her father's drunken rages, her mother's silence, the town's whispers about her own heart. But seeing Ellie, a woman who'd loved fiercely and paid the price for it, stirred something deep. This wasn't just about protecting an old friend. It was about proving something to herself. They're wrong, Lena said, her voice low. You're tougher than all of them. Ellie chuckled, a dry, warm sound. Maybe. But I'm tired, Lena. And I'm not as young as I used to be. Lena stepped closer, her hand brushing Ellie's arm. You don't have to do this alone anymore. That night, Lena stayed at Ellie's house, sleeping on the lumpy couch in the living room. The walls were lined with photos. Ellie and Margaret in their 20s, laughing on a beach. Ellie in her nurse's uniform, her face grim but proud. Margaret holding a bouquet of wildflowers, her eyes soft. Lena traced the frames with her fingertips, remembering the summer she'd spent helping them in their garden, listening to their stories of love and war. She'd been 16, grappling with her own feelings for a girl at school, and Ellie had known without her saying a word. Love's worth fighting for, Ellie had told her then, even when it hurts. The next morning, the Vipers returned. Lena was outside, scrubbing the graffiti off the mailbox, when she heard the rumble of engines. Jace and 3 others pulled up, their bikes gleaming under the sun. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with mockery. You the old lady's bodyguard now? Lena stood, wiping her hands on her jeans. Something like that. You got a problem with her. You deal with me. Jace laughed, but his eyes were cold. This town's changing. People like her don't belong here anymore. Lena stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. She's been here longer than you've been alive. If anyone doesn't belong, it's you. The standoff was interrupted by Ellie, who appeared at the door, her cane tapping the porch. Enough, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. You want to scare me out? You'll have to try harder than that. Jace smirked, but didn't push further. He revved his bike and rode off, his crew following. Lena turned to Ellie, her chest tight with a mix of anger and admiration. You're still a badass, she said. Ellie's lips twitched. And you're still trouble. Come inside. We need a plan. Inside, over coffee, Ellie told Lena about the Vipers campaign, the late-night harassment, the slashed tires, the whispers at the local diner. The town had changed since Lena left. New faces, new tensions, and a growing divide between those who accepted people like Ellie and those who didn't. Lena listened, her mind racing. She'd spent years avoiding commitment, running from anything that felt too heavy. But this, helping Ellie, standing up to the Vipers, felt like a fight she couldn't walk away from. By evening, Lena had an idea. She knew engines, knew bikes, and knew the kind of people who rode them. The Vipers weren't just bullies. They were a gang with a reputation, and reputations could be challenged. She'd heard of a local bike rally happening in a week, a chance for riders to show off their machines and their nerve. If she could get Ellie there, show the town she wasn't broken, it might turn the tide. You want me to go to a biker rally? Ellie asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm 92, not 22. Lena grinned. You've got more guts than half those punks. Besides, I'll be with you. Ellie studied her, her eyes softening. You're a lot like Margaret, you know. She never backed down either. The comparison hit Lena like a punch. She'd spent years convincing herself she didn't need anyone, that love was a risk she couldn't afford. But standing in Ellie's kitchen, surrounded by memories of a love that had endured, she felt something shift. Maybe this fight wasn't just about Ellie. Maybe it was about finding her own courage, too. As night fell, Lena lay awake, the hum of the town outside a reminder of the battle ahead. The Vipers wouldn't stop, and neither would she. But for the first time in years, she wasn't running. She was staying, for Ellie, for herself, and for a love she was only beginning to understand. The next morning, Lena woke to the smell of burnt toast, and Ellie's muttering in the kitchen. Damn toaster's older than I am, Ellie grumbled, scraping charred crumbs into the sink. Lena smiled, pulling on her jacket. The normalcy of the moment felt like a lifeline, a reminder of why she was here. But outside, the reality of their fight loomed. Lena spent the day scoping out Willow Creek, driving her truck through the town's quiet streets, past the diner where locals whispered, and the bar where the Vipers hung out. She noticed their bikes parked in a neat row, gleaming like weapons. Jace's was the flashiest, a black Harley with custom flames. Lena knew bikes. She could rebuild an engine blindfolded, but she also knew pride. Jace's ego was his weakness, and she'd use it. Back at Ellie's, Lena shared her plan. They'd enter the bike rally, not just to show up but to compete. Ellie had an old Triumph in her garage, a relic from her days riding with Margaret. It hadn't run in years, but Lena could fix it. We'll ride in together, Lena said. Show them you're not scared. Ellie's eyes lit up, but doubt crept into her voice. I haven't ridden in decades. And you think they'll let a 92-year-old vet in a queer love story roll into their macho fest? They won't have a choice, Lena said. It's a public event. And I'll be right there. Ellie leaned back, her fingers tracing the edge of her coffee mug. You're stubborn, just like her. Lena's chest tightened. Margaret. Ellie nodded. She'd have loved you. Always had a soft spot for troublemakers with good hearts. The words lingered as Lena headed to the garage. The Triumph was a mess, rusty, dusty, with a cracked seat and a dead battery. But it was beautiful, a piece of Ellie and Margaret's history. Lena spent hours cleaning it, her hands moving with the ease of muscle memory. As she worked, she thought about her own past, her first love, a girl named Sarah who'd broken her heart at 17. She'd run from Willow Creek after that, convinced love was a trap. Now here she was, fixing a bike for a woman who'd loved without apology. By dusk, the Triumph purred to life. Lena wheeled it out, and Ellie emerged, her cane swapped for a leather jacket that still fit her like a glove. "Well, damn," Lena said, grinning. "You look ready to kick ass." Ellie smirked. "Let's not get cocky. We've got work to do." The next few days were a blur of preparation. Lena tuned the bike, while Ellie dug out old photos and stories to share with the townsfolk, hoping to sway opinions. They visited the diner, where Ellie's presence, medals pinned to her jacket, drew curious glances. Some locals nodded in respect, others turned away. Lena noticed a young woman, maybe 25, watching them from a corner booth. Her eyes held a mix of awe and fear, like she was seeing something she hadn't dared to hope for. "That's Mia," Ellie whispered. "Runs the local bookstore. Keeps to herself, but I've seen her with girls. She's scared to be out." Lena's heart ached. She knew that fear, the weight of a town's judgment. "Maybe we can show her it's worth it," she said. But trouble wasn't far behind. That night, a brick crashed through Ellie's window, glass scattering across the living room. A note was tied to it. "Leave or else." Lena's blood boiled, but Ellie just picked up the brick, her hands steady.
"They're scared," she said.
"Means we're getting to them." Lena wasn't so sure. She stayed up all night, keeping watch, her mind racing. The Vipers weren't just bullies. They were organized, and Jace had a reputation for violence. Lena had heard rumors at the bar. He'd once hospitalized a guy for looking at him wrong. If they were going to face him at the rally, they needed more than a fixed bike and grit. They needed allies. The next morning, Lena drove to the bookstore. Mia was behind the counter, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes wary. "I heard about Ellie," she said quietly. "Is she okay?" "She's tougher than all of us," Lena replied. "But she could use some support. We're taking on the Vipers at the rally. You in?" Mia hesitated, her fingers gripping a book. "I don't know. I've stayed under the radar for a reason." Lena leaned closer. "I get it. I was you once. But Ellie's fighting for all of us. You don't have to be loud. Just be there." Mia nodded slowly, a spark of resolve in her eyes. "I'll think about it." Back at Ellie's, the two women strategized. The rally was in 3 days, and the Vipers would be out in force. Lena suggested entering the bike show, not just to compete, but to draw attention to Ellie's story. "We'll tell the town who you are," Lena said. "A veteran, a hero. They can't ignore that." Ellie's eyes softened. "You're not just doing this for me, are you?" Lena looked away, her throat tight. "Maybe I'm doing it for me, too." That night, they sat on the porch, the Triumph gleaming under the moonlight. Ellie told Lena about Margaret's laugh, her stubbornness, the way they danced in secret when the world wasn't ready for them. Lena listened, her heart heavy with a longing she hadn't let herself feel in years. She wondered what it would be like to love like that, to fight for it, to win. As the rally approached, Lena felt the weight of what they were doing. It wasn't just about saving Ellie's home. It was about showing Willow Creek that love, in all its forms, was worth defending. And maybe, just maybe, it was about finding her own place in a world she'd run from for too long. The day of the rally dawned bright and sharp, the air thick with the promise of confrontation. Willow Creek's fairgrounds buzzed with energy, hundreds of bikes lined up, their chrome catching the sun, while the smell of gasoline and fried food hung heavy. Lena pushed the Triumph through the crowd, Ellie walking beside her, her chin high despite the stairs. The Vipers were already there, their bikes parked like a challenge. Jace stood at the center, his arms crossed, his eyes locking onto Ellie with a sneer. "Didn't think you'd show, old lady," he called, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Whispers rippled through the onlookers, some curious, others hostile. Lena's pulse raced, but she kept her voice steady. "We're here to compete. Unless you're scared of a fair fight." The crowd murmured, and Jace's smirk faltered. He couldn't back down, not with everyone watching. "You're on," he said, spitting on the ground. Ellie leaned on her cane, her voice cutting through the noise. "I fought for this country while you were still in diapers, boy. Don't underestimate me." A few people clapped, and Lena saw Mia in the crowd, her face pale but determined. She'd come, just as she'd promised. Others were there too, a handful of locals who'd known Ellie for decades, their expressions a mix of pride and unease. The town was watching, and Lena felt the weight of it. The bike show was first, a chance to display the triumph. Lena had polished it to a mirror shine, its curves gleaming with history. She and Ellie had attached a small plaque to the handlebars. "Ellie and Margaret, 1955. As they rolled it into place, Lena noticed people leaning in, reading the plaque, whispering. Some nodded in respect. Others turned away. While the judges inspected the bikes, Lena and Ellie sat under a tent, sharing a thermos of coffee. Ellie's hands shook slightly, but her eyes were bright. "Margaret would have loved this," she said. "She always said a good bike could tell a story." Lena smiled. "What's this one story?" "Freedom," Ellie said simply. "We rode it when we couldn't be ourselves anywhere else." Before Lena could respond, a shout broke the moment. Jace and his crew were circling the triumph, their laughter sharp. "What's this, a museum piece?" one of them jeered. Lena stood, her fists clenched, but Ellie grabbed her arm. "Let them talk," she said. "They're just noise." But the noise grew louder. As the rally shifted to the stunt competition, the Vipers took center stage, pulling wheelies and burnouts that drew cheers. Jace rode last, his bike roaring as he popped a wheelie that nearly clipped the crowd. The applause was deafening, and Lena's stomach sank. They were good, too good. When it was their turn, Lena helped Ellie onto the Triumph. The plan was simple. Lena would drive, Ellie would ride behind her, a symbol of defiance. The crowd grew quiet as they rolled out, Ellie's arms around Lena's waist, her metals glinting in the sun. Lena revved the engine, and they rode a slow, steady lap, the Triumph's per contrast to the Viper's snarls. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered, others booed. Lena caught Mia's eye, her face glowing with pride. But Jace's voice cut through. "This ain't a pride parade." Lena's grip tightened on the handlebars. She wanted to turn back, to confront him, but Ellie's hand squeezed her shoulder. "Keep going," she whispered. "This is our moment." They finished the lap to scattered applause, and Lena helped Ellie off the bike. Her legs were shaky, but her smile was fierce.
"We did it," she said.
But the day wasn't over. The rally's final event was a community vote for the best bike, a chance for the town to decide who represented Willow Creek. Lena knew it was their shot to shift the narrative. She and Ellie worked the crowd, sharing stories of Ellie's service, her love for Margaret, her fight to stay in her home. Some listened, others walked away. Mia approached, her voice soft. "I told a few people about you too. They're listening, Ellie. They're starting to see." Ellie nodded, her eyes misty. "That's all I ever wanted, to be seen." As the vote began, Lena felt a flicker of hope. But then she saw Jace talking to the judges, his gestures sharp, his voice low. Something was wrong. She overheard a snippet. "Not right for the town. You know what I mean." Lena's blood ran cold. The Vipers were trying to rig the vote. She pulled Ellie aside, her voice urgent. "They're cheating. We need to do something." Ellie's face hardened. "Then we fight dirty, too. Not with fists, with truth." They decided to take the stage during the vote announcement. Ellie would speak, tell her story, and let the town decide who she was.
Lena's heart pounded as they prepared.
This wasn't just about a bike show. It was about Ellie's place in Willow Creek, about every person who'd ever felt pushed out. As they waited for their moment, Lena noticed a woman in the crowd, her face familiar. It was Sarah, her first love, older now but unmistakable. Their eyes met, and Lena's breath caught. Sarah gave a small nod, a gesture of recognition, maybe regret. Lena turned away, focusing on Ellie. This wasn't about her past, it was about their future. The announcer called for the final vote, and Ellie stepped forward, her cane steady, her voice clear. "I'm Eleanor Whitaker," she began, "and I've lived in Willow Creek for 70 years. Ellie's voice carried over the crowd, steady and unyielding, like a lighthouse cutting through fog. "I served this country, nursed soldiers through hell, and loved a woman who made every day worth living. If that makes me an outsider, then so be it." The fairgrounds fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Lena stood beside her, her heart swelling with pride. Ellie's story wasn't just hers. It was a challenge to everyone listening, a call to see her not as a target, but as a person who'd fought for her place in the world. Jace shifted in the crowd, his face twisting with unease. He hadn't expected this, hadn't counted on Ellie's courage or the way her voice could command a room. Lena noticed Mia recording the speech on her phone, her hands trembling, but her focus sharp. Others were filming too, their phones raised like tiny beacons of support. "I've lived here longer than most of you," Ellie continued. "I've seen this town grow, change, and sometimes turn on its own. But I'm not leaving. Not because of a few loud bikes or hateful words. I'm staying because this is my home, and I've earned it." The crowd erupted, some in cheers, others in murmurs of dissent. Lena saw Sarah again, clapping softly, her eyes wet. For a moment, their past flashed through Lena's mind, the stolen kisses, the heartbreak, the years of running. But she pushed it aside.
This was about Ellie, about now.
The announcer, a nervous man in a cowboy hat, took the stage. Folks, we've got the vote results," he hesitated, glancing at Jace, who nodded subtly. Lena's stomach dropped. "And the winner is Jace Colton's Harley." Boos mixed with cheers. Lena's fists clenched, she knew it was fixed. Ellie's hand on her arm was the only thing keeping her from storming the stage. "Wait," Ellie whispered. "Let them dig their own grave." Before Lena could ask what she meant, Mia stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. "That's not right," she called out, holding up her phone. "I've got proof the vote was tampered with. Check the ballots." The crowd turned, murmurs growing louder. The announcer stammered, but Mia kept going. "Ellie's bike had more votes. I saw the count before Jace talked to the judges." Jace pushed through the crowd, his face red. "You got no proof, girl. Sit down." But Mia didn't back down. She played her video, showing Jace whispering to a judge, slipping something into his hand. The crowd gasped, and even some of Jace's own crew looked uneasy. Lena felt a surge of hope. This was their chance. Ellie took the mic again, her voice calm but piercing. "I don't need a trophy to know who I am. But this town deserves better than cheats and bullies." The announcer, cornered, called for a recount. Lena helped Ellie off the stage, her heart racing. As they waited, locals approached, some to shake Ellie's hand, others to offer quiet apologies. An older man, a veteran himself, saluted her. "You're one of us, Ellie. Always will be." The recount took an hour, and when the results came, the triumph won by a landslide. The crowd roared, and Lena hugged Ellie, tears stinging her eyes. But Jace wasn't done. As the crowd dispersed, he cornered them near the bikes, his crew at his back. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "You're still not welcome here." Lena stepped forward, her voice low. "You're wrong. This town's waking up, and we're not going anywhere." Jace lunged, but before he could act, Mia and a group of locals stepped in, forming a barrier. "Enough," Mia said, her voice steady now. "Leave them alone." Outnumbered, Jace backed off, his crew following. Lena watched them go, her chest tight with relief and something deeper, pride, maybe, or the beginnings of belonging. That night, Ellie's house felt different. The broken window was boarded up, but the air was lighter. Mia stopped by with coffee and donuts, her shy smile brighter than before. "I posted the video online," she said. "It's going viral. People are talking about you, Ellie." Ellie chuckled. "Never thought I'd be a social media star at 92. Lena laughed, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Sarah had approached her after the rally, her voice soft. "I'm proud of you, Lena. I'm sorry for back then." Lena had nodded, unsure what to say. The past was heavy, but today had shown her something new. She could fight for something bigger than herself. As Mia left, Ellie turned to Lena, her eyes sharp. "You're staying, aren't you?" Lena hesitated. She'd planned to leave after the rally, to keep running. But looking at Ellie, at the home they'd fought for, she felt anchored. "Yeah," she said finally. "I'm staying." Ellie smiled, a knowing glint in her eye. "Good. Because we've got more work to do." The next day, Lena woke to a new reality. The town was buzzing. People stopped by with flowers, food, even offers to fix Ellie's window. The Vipers were quieter, their influence shaken. But Lena knew it wasn't over. Jace wouldn't let this go, and there were still those in town who'd side with him. She and Ellie spent the day planning. They'd start a community group, a place for people like Mia, like Lena, to feel safe. Ellie wanted to call it Margaret's house, a tribute to the woman who'd been her strength. Lena liked the idea. It felt like a promise, a way to keep fighting. As they worked, Lena's thoughts drifted to Sarah. She'd seen her at the diner that morning, sitting alone. Part of Lena wanted to talk, to unpack the past, but another part, the part that had stood with Ellie, knew she didn't need to. She was building something new, something worth staying for. By evening, the Triumph sat in the driveway, a symbol of their victory. Lena touched its handlebars, feeling the weight of Ellie and Margaret's story, and her own. She wasn't running anymore. She was home. The weeks following the rally were a quiet storm. Willow Creek buzzed with Ellie's story, her speech shared across social media, drawing support from strangers far beyond Montana. Lena scrolled through comments on Mia's video. "Ellie's a hero. Love wins. Shame on those bullies." But not everyone was kind. Hateful messages slipped through, echoes of the Viper's venom. Ellie, unfazed, kept busy. She and Lena started Margaret's house, turning Ellie's living room into a meeting space for anyone who felt out of place, queer kids, lonely veterans, anyone needing a home. Mia was their first regular, bringing books to share and a quiet courage that grew each week. Lena watched her blossom, remembering her own younger self, too scared to speak her truth. But the Vipers hadn't vanished. Jace and his crew kept their distance, but Lena caught glimpses of them, idling at the edge of town, watching. One night, she found a slashed tire on her truck, a clear message. She didn't tell Ellie, not wanting to worry her, but the threat gnawed at her. One morning, Lena found Ellie sorting through old letters, her hands lingering on Margaret's handwriting. "She wrote me every day during the war," Ellie said, her voice soft. "Kept me going when I thought I'd break." Lena sat beside her, the weight of Ellie's love story settling in her chest. "How did you do it? Love her, despite everything?" Ellie's eyes met hers, sharp and clear. "You don't choose who you love. You choose to fight for them." The words hit Lena hard. She'd spent years avoiding love, convinced it only brought pain. But watching Ellie, she saw something else. Love as defiance, as strength. It made her think of Sarah, of the what-ifs she'd buried. That afternoon, Lena ran into Sarah at the hardware store, buying paint for her apartment. Their conversation was halting, careful. "I saw you at the rally," Sarah said. "You've changed." Lena shrugged, her heart racing.
Had to.
For Ellie. Sarah's eyes softened. "Not just for her, I think." Lena didn't know how to respond. She left with a nod, her mind tangled. Sarah's words lingered, stirring feelings she'd locked away. But there was no time to dwell. Margaret's house was growing, and with it, the Viper's anger. A week later, trouble struck. Lena and Mia were hanging flyers for the next meeting when two vipers cornered them outside the bookstore. The taller one, a guy named Rick, sneered. "You think you're heroes? This town doesn't want your kind." Lena stepped in front of Mia, her voice steady. "Our kind? You mean people who don't hide who they are?" Rick's face darkened, but before he could act, a voice cut through. "Back off." It was the veteran from the rally, his broad frame blocking the sun. Behind him stood others, locals who'd come to Ellie's meetings, their faces set. The vipers left, muttering, but Lena knew it wasn't over. That night, she and Ellie sat down with Mia and the veteran, whose name was Tom. They planned to expand Margaret's house, to make it a real community center. Tom offered his barn as a meeting space, and Mia suggested fundraising through the bookstore. Lena felt a spark of hope. This was bigger than them now. But hope came with risk. The next day, Lena found a note on her truck. "You're next." Her stomach twisted, but she didn't tell Ellie. Instead, she went to the bar where the vipers hung out, her heart pounding. She wasn't looking for a fight, just answers. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and tension. Jace sat at the bar, his eyes narrowing as Lena approached. "You're bold coming here," he said. "I'm not here to fight," Lena said. "I just want to know why you hate her so much." Jace laughed, bitter. "It's not about her. It's about what she represents. This town's supposed to be ours, not some old lady's soapbox." Lena leaned closer, her voice low. "She's not taking anything from you. She's just living." Jace's smirk faded, and for a moment, Lena saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt, maybe, or shame. But he turned away, and she knew he wasn't ready to listen. Back at Ellie's, Lena found her on the porch, staring at the stars. "You went to see him, didn't you?" Ellie asked, her voice calm but knowing. Lena nodded, sitting beside her. "I had to try." Ellie reached for her hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "You're fighting for more than me now. You know that, right?" Lena's throat tightened. She did know. This was about Mia, about Tom, about every person who'd ever felt pushed out. And maybe, just maybe, it was about her own heart, too. As they sat in silence, Lena felt the weight of the fight ahead. The vipers wouldn't stop, but neither would they. Margaret's house was just the beginning, a beacon for a town learning to see love, not as a threat, but as a strength. Margaret's house grew faster than Lena expected. Tom's barn became a hub, filled with folding chairs, coffee urns, and voices, some loud, some hesitant, all searching for connection. Mia ran book discussions, Tom shared war stories, and Ellie told tales of her and Margaret's life, her eyes bright with memory. Lena watched it all, her hands busy fixing chairs or brewing coffee, her heart slowly finding its place. But the viper's shadow loomed. Their harassment shifted, less public, more insidious. Anonymous calls to Ellie's house at midnight, more slashed tires, graffiti on Tom's barn. Lena's anger simmered, but Ellie remained calm. "They're scared," she said one night, her voice steady. "Scared of a world that's changing." Lena wasn't so sure. She'd seen Jace's eyes at the bar, the flicker of something human, but also the hardness that came with it. He wasn't just scared, he was angry, and anger like that didn't fade easily. One evening, Sarah showed up at the barn, her presence a quiet shock. She brought a stack of old photos, offering them for display about Willow Creek's history. Lena's heart raced as their hands brushed, passing the photos. "These are from my mom's collection," Sarah said. "I thought they'd fit here." Lena nodded, her voice caught. The photos showed Ellie and Margaret in their youth, laughing at a fair, riding the Triumph, their love unguarded in stolen moments. Lena felt a pang, not just for them, but for what she'd lost with Sarah. After the meeting, Sarah lingered. "Can we talk?" she asked. They walked to the edge of the property, the night cool and quiet. Sarah's voice was soft. "I messed up back then, Lena. I was scared, and I hurt you." Lena looked away, the old wound aching. We were kids. It's done. But it's not, Sarah said. I see you now, fighting for Ellie, for this place. I want to be part of it. Lena's chest tightened. She wanted to believe her, but trust was hard-won. I need time, she said finally. Sarah nodded, her eyes sad but understanding. The next day, trouble escalated. Lena arrived at the barn to find it vandalized, windows broken, go home spray-painted across the walls. Mia was there, tears in her eyes, but her jaw was set.
They're not stopping us, she said.
Lena called a meeting and the group gathered Ellie, Tom, Mia, and a dozen others. They cleaned the barn, painting over the graffiti, their hands moving in quiet defiance. Ellie spoke up, her voice firm. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about all of us. We keep going. Lena felt a surge of pride, but also fear. The Vipers were escalating, and she worried what they'd do next. She started staying at the barn overnight, keeping watch. One night, she caught a figure lurking, a kid, barely 18, one of Jace's recruits. He froze when he saw her, spray can in hand. Don't, Lena said, her voice low but firm. You don't have to do this. The kid hesitated, his eyes darting. Jace said. Jace doesn't own you, Lena cut in. You're better than this. He ran off, leaving the can behind. Lena picked it up, her heart pounding. She didn't tell Ellie, but the encounter stayed with her. Maybe some of the Vipers could be reached, but not Jace. Not yet. The next week, Margaret's house hosted its first big event, a fundraiser to repair the barn and expand the group. The town showed up, drawn by Ellie's story and the viral video. Sarah helped organize, her presence steady but not pushy. Lena watched her, torn between old pain and new possibility. As the event wound down, Ellie pulled Lena aside. You're carrying too much, she said. This fight, Sarah, all of it. Let someone in. Lena's throat tightened. I'm trying. Ellie squeezed her hand. Trying's a start. That night, Lena stayed late, cleaning up. Sarah stayed too, and they worked in silence, the air heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Sarah spoke. I'm not asking for everything, Lena. Just a chance to be here, with you. Lena looked at her, the years falling away. Okay, she said softly. A chance. As they locked up the barn, Lena felt a shift. Margaret's house was more than a safe space. It was a bridge, connecting past and present, fear and hope. The Vipers were still out there, but so were they, and they were growing stronger. The fundraiser's success brought new energy to Margaret's house, but it also drew a line in the sand. The Vipers' attacks grew bolder. A firecracker tossed at Ellie's porch, more threats left on Lena's truck. Jace was losing control, and Lena knew he'd lash out soon. She started carrying a wrench in her jacket, not for violence, but for protection. Ellie noticed, her eyes narrowing. Don't let them make you into something you're not, she said one morning, her voice firm. Lena nodded, but the weight of the wrench was a comfort. She wasn't just protecting Ellie, she was protecting Mia, Tom, Sarah, and everyone who'd found a home in the barn. Margaret's house was thriving, with weekly meetings packed and plans for a permanent space. But every step forward felt like a dare to Jace. One evening, Lena and Sarah were painting the barn's new sign when Mia ran up, breathless. They're planning something, she said. I overheard Rick at the diner. They're coming for the barn tonight. Lena's blood ran cold. She called Tom, who rallied the group. By dusk, a dozen people stood guard, locals, veterans, even a few teenagers who'd started coming to meetings. Ellie insisted on being there, her cane planted firmly in the dirt. You should stay home, Lena told her, worry gnawing at her. Ellie's eyes flashed. This is my fight, too. As night fell, the rumble of bikes echoed in the distance. Lena's heart pounded, but she stood tall, Sarah at her side. The Vipers appeared, Jace at the front, his face a mask of rage. You think you can take this town? He shouted. Ellie stepped forward, her voice clear. We're not taking anything. We're building something. You could join us, you know. Jace laughed, but it was hollow. Lena saw the kid from the other night in the back, his eyes uncertain. The crowd behind her, Tom, Mia, Sarah, and the others, stood firm, their presence a quiet strength. Jace raised a hand, and Lena braced for a fight. But then the kid stepped forward, his voice shaky. I'm done, Jace. This ain't right. The words broke the tension. Another Viper hesitated, then another. Jace's face twisted, but he was outnumbered, not just by Lena's group, but by his own crew's doubt. He revved his bike and rode off, only a few following. The barn was safe, but Lena knew it wasn't over. She and Sarah stayed up, talking through the night. Sarah's hand found hers, and Lena didn't pull away. I'm scared, Sarah admitted, but I'm here. Lena squeezed her hand. Me too. The next day, the town felt different. People stopped by the barn with donations, offers to help. The kid who defected, named Kyle, showed up head down. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't know what I was doing. Ellie sat him down, her voice gentle but firm. You know now. That's what matters. Kyle started coming to meetings, bringing others. Margaret's house grew, a beacon for those who'd felt lost. Lena watched Ellie, her strength unwavering, and felt a pull toward something bigger. She and Sarah were cautious, rebuilding trust, but each moment, each shared laugh, each quiet touch, felt like a step toward healing. One night, Lena found Ellie in the garage, polishing the Triumph. You're leaving it to me, aren't you? Lena asked, half joking. Ellie smiled. Maybe. Or maybe I'll ride it again one day. Lena laughed, but her heart was full. She was home, not just in Willow Creek, but in herself. The Vipers were still out there, but their power was fading. Margaret's house was proof that love, in all its forms, could build something stronger than hate. Months later, Margaret's house was no longer just a barn, it was a community. The town council approved a permanent space, funded by donations and grants sparked by Ellie's story. Lena oversaw the build, her hands steady as she hammered nails and laid bricks, each one a promise to Ellie, to Margaret, to herself. Jace and the Vipers faded into the background. Some, like Kyle, joined Margaret's house, finding a place to belong. Others left town, their influence broken. Lena knew Jace was still out there, nursing his grudges, but he was alone now, his crew fractured. Ellie, at 93, was slower but no less fierce. She spoke at every meeting, her stories of Margaret weaving a thread through the group. Lena listened, her heart full, knowing she was part of that legacy. Sarah was there too, her presence steady. They were taking it slow, but each day brought them closer. A shared coffee, a late-night talk, a kiss that felt like coming home. One spring morning, Lena and Ellie took the Triumph out, riding through Willow Creek's quiet streets. The town had changed, people waved, kids ran alongside, and the diner's owner put up a rainbow flag. Ellie's medals glinted in the sun, her smile wide. You did this, Lena said, pulling over at a lookout. Ellie shook her head. We did. You, me, Mia, Sarah, all of us. Lena looked out at the mountains, her chest tight with gratitude. She'd come back to save Ellie, but in the end, Ellie had saved her, shown her that love was worth fighting for, that home was worth building. As they rode back, Lena felt Margaret's presence in the wind, in Ellie's laugh, in her own steady hands. The fight wasn't over. Hate lingered, as it always would, but they'd built something stronger. Margaret's house wasn't just a place, it was a promise that love, in all its forms, could change everything. And for Lena it had.